Here we go. Okay, episode 2 of I've Known You Too Long. We're just going to jump right into this. My guest tonight is Rocky Votolato, someone I've known for a long time. Rocky Votolato is someone you may have heard of. He's a singer-songwriter. He's released a number of solo records. He was also the singer from the band Waxwing. And I had the honor, and he had the probable displeasure of starring in my film, The Edge of QUARREL.
That's right.
Which is a task I put him through between 1997 and 1999, and that he's still having to live down to this day. Rocky, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming over, man.
It's good to be here, man.
Okay, Rocky, I've known you too long.
Probably.
And the way this works is, and this is going to be the most common version of this. This is just what I said to Greg the other day. Is there's a number of ways I can interpret that.
Mm-hmm.
But the most common one I'm discovering with people that I've known for a long time is that I cannot remember. I've known you so long that I cannot remember when we met for the first time.
Yeah.
I have early memories of you.
Okay.
And I have what is in my mind the first visual of you.
I think I remember when we first met. And was it at a party? Remember a party that Jake Snyder...
Okay, all right. So we're already on the same page.
Okay.
And I've already got it figured out. But my problem is that when I saw you at this party that we're about to talk about, I already knew who you were.
Okay.
But I think maybe we hadn't met, but you were somebody who had been on stage, and I would have seen you before. So here's the thing.
Okay.
You were playing second guitar for State Route 522.
Oh my God, that is right.
On Halloween, October 31st of 1995 at the Baldwin's house.
No way. Was that the Baldwin's house? I didn't know that.
I believe so. No, see, here's the thing.
I don't even know
I could be wrong. In my head, I thought that was the Baldwin's house. And here's what I remember. I had been told that you were now playing second guitar for State Route 522 because Todd Graham was no longer in the band.
Was Todd in 522? That's so crazy. I didn't even remember that.
Am I wrong? Was he not?
He probably was. I think he was.
God, I actually could be completely wrong about that. But this is kind of the idea of this podcast. And first I'm going to explain the podcast to you. Okay. This is the setup of the podcast, the structure of it.
All right.
So we'll get to that. But know that we could be completely wrong about a bunch of these details. But over the course of this podcast, a picture is essentially going to develop. A timeline.
I guarantee you we're going to be wrong about a lot of the details.
And that's okay. And I also do a thing afterwards where I try to correct the record. If I can, when I'm going through and editing and going through what we've said, I'll notice things that are wrong, or I'll try to verify, and I can go in and correct the record. And then I'm hoping that in the future, other guests who have listened to the podcast before they come on will also make corrections through the course of recording.
Great idea.
So here's how it works. We figure out as near as we can when we met. Then we go back from there, and I'm going to ask you some questions, figure out who you are, essentially why you are who you are, and how you came to be in a place where we could have met.
Okay.
From birth to whenever it was. Then we'll go forward and we'll talk about stuff that's happened since.
Okay.
And that's the podcast.
I like it. It's a good idea.
Cool.
Man, I can't believe we're already talking about this party. I'm so excited.
You were wearing a silver shirt.
I was.
What were you dressed as?
I don't even remember. I think like a spaceman or something.
You put on a silver shirt and said, "I'm a spaceman."
I'm an alien.
Was that your? Is that how you?
Or I was some kind of a cross dresser because it was so tight. It was. Do you remember? Like, okay,
wait a minute. Were you dressing as a cross dresser in 1995 on Halloween?
Yeah.
That's. I mean, progressive of you.
It was bold.
I like it.
People liked it.
It was good, but I remember people were like, What is Rocky wearing?"
I know. What is that? What's that guy got on?
I was Lloyd Dobler that year.
Is that right?
Your wife remembers.
Ah, that's so cool.
That sounded terrible, didn't it?
Well, you knew my wife before I did.
I did.
I met my wife through
you. And the best part is that, well, we can definitely get to that, but that's future. We can't tell that story now. We gotta wait.
All right, let's follow the rules.
We're gonna follow the rules. I walk into this party.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually hoping to meet Michaelanne.
Oh, okay.
And I thought, hey, I'll go as Lloyd Dobler. No girl can resist that. And I had a trench coat, and I dressed as close as I could to Lloyd Dobler. I had a little bag with some keys in it. So I was the key master.
That's cool.
And Michaelanne wasn't there, but April was. And she knew who I was immediately. I believe she was sitting on a couch and she went, Lloyd Dobler! Like when I walked in the door.
April was at that party. Because I didn't meet her that night.
No, you didn't know.
My current wife, April, for listeners. Let's fill them in. And Michaelanne, Dave's current girlfriend now.
Yes.
And that's...
Although
how many years ago?
We did not know
95?
each other. We did not know each other yet. She had not met me. I had seen her and knew that she was someone I wanted to meet. And I knew she hung out with the people that would have been having this party.
Sure.
So I thought this would be, if she's there, I'm going to go up and introduce myself.
That's so awesome.
And it didn't happen for another few months. Another couple months.
So who was throwing the party? Do you remember?
Wasn't that a Baldwin house in Kirkland?
Must have been.
Redmond? I don't know. Where was it?
I never knew. I just know that Jake Snyder, who asked me to play with
Jake Snyder
Stay Route 522
in Stay Route 522. He's now in Minus the Bear.
Right?
Yep.
He asked me to fill in on second guitar for this one show. So I remember going and practicing with those guys, learning the songs.
Wait, so there was no period of time where you were in the band other than one show?
I think that, if I'm remembering correctly, I may have done one other performance with those guys, but I think that was it.
No recording with you on it?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't officially in the band. I was just kind of filling in.
Okay. And then you, at the time, you were doing other music.
Yeah. I can't even remember. I mean, this is where I was like guaranteeing you that we're going to have some mistakes because...
It's going to start clearing that fog. It's going to start clearing away, man.
I don't remember what year I started Waxwing. And I'm not sure if I was already... playing in Waxwing at that point, or if I was still in a band called Lying on Loot, because I had put out a split 7-inch with State Route 522.
No, not yet. You hadn't done it yet.
Okay, that hadn't come out yet.
No.
Okay, so I probably was still.
That's after we meet.
Okay, crazy.
We're going backwards. We'll go backwards from there.
So that party was really a good time, though. I remember like having an awesome time there.
It was a good time.
A lot of people really liked my costume.
Yeah, it was memorable. Somewhere out there's a photo, and if anyone listening to this podcast has that photo, we would really like to see it.
I looked hot. I had like a skin tight silver outfit on. It was more than a shirt, wasn't it? Didn't it go into my like pants too?
It kind of was. It almost was like a metallic that shimmied, and it wasn't right. But it was Halloween. You get away with whatever.
Yeah.
If I had seen you wearing that not on Halloween, I would have had questions.
Yeah. You would have been right to have them.
But I do have questions.
I just think it's amazing that the woman who turned out to be my future wife was at that party. I didn't even know that, and I didn't meet her. She probably saw me in the silver shirt, but we didn't meet that night.
Yeah, I feel like she's talked about it before, but we'll get to that. So, here's the thing. I already knew before I came to that party who you were and that you were playing. Jake said, Rocky's playing with us. You know Rocky. So here's the thing. I'm assuming that you and I knew each other from the old firehouse in Redmond.
That's right.
Were you worked at the old firehouse?
Yeah, at the time. I was working there.
At the time, in 1995?
Pretty sure, yeah.
Okay. So we clearly had run across each other at shows. And the first Votolato I knew was your brother.
Oh, yeah?
When he was a little kid running around being a total shit. And I say this with love. Being a total shit.
Nothing's changed, Dave.
Oh, God. Cody. So... Pettibone and I were sitting, John Pettibone from Undertow, we're sitting at a merch table at the old firehouse at one of those big Undertow shows. Yeah. Cody comes up and is just talking shit to us. And it was great. It was just the foul-mouthed little kid. And I don't know how, I'm saying little kid.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Michaelanne earlier told me she thought he was probably 14 at this time. I think it's younger. I'm thinking he's got to be younger than that. Because this could be 93 or early 94.
Yeah, it's incredible how many shows he went to with me.
And he was really young,
right?
Oh,
yeah, he was always the youngest kid.
So how old do you think he was at the first show you took him to at the old firehouse?
Okay, so he's 5 years younger than me. So I was in 95. I'm trying to think. Okay, so I was born in 77.
Oh, don't make me do math.
So let's see. How old was I in 95? Come on. You
18.
Can do this, Dave.
What was it? 77 and 95?
Yeah.
18.
So I was 18 in that year when I
5 years younger than you. He's 13. Michaelanne's pretty much right. In 95. Okay, so I said I thought he was 12. And we're talking 94. But here's the thing. He's talking shit, and then he goes and runs off and does whatever he does, like he's like the world's biggest winner.
Totally.
I'm talking about
he had a
someone,
Jawbreaker shirt on, like
probably,
an oversized Jawbreaker
huge,
shirt.
looked like, yeah, exactly. And I'm talking about someone I love to death here, so I don't mean this in any bad way. But I look at Pettibone, and Pettibone just looks at me and goes, I love that kid.
Yeah.
Because John loved his attitude. Yeah. Absolutely.
He had a bad attitude.
That's my first memory of Cody.
Did you ask Cody to be in the movie before me? Had you met Cody before you met me?
No.
Okay, so you met him
No, because I
after.
think it took me a while to understand that you guys, that there was a connection. And like it took even longer to know Sonny that there was a connection. But I did. There are Votolatos out there. And Brandy too. So
Brandy's in the music business too.
Let's clear something up right now.
Okay.
Votolato.
That's it.
That's correct, right?
That's as correct in quotes as you want to get. Yeah.
But you saying your own name, say it out loud.
Rocky Votolato. I would say it that way. But see, I always kind of take it with a grain of salt because the original Votolato was from it's an Italian name, so it was Votolato. You know, that was the original way it was pronounced.
People want to say Votolato.
A lot of people say Votolato. Hey, they can say it however they want. It doesn't matter to me.
But why have two O sounds in the name? Votolato. It's easy. You don't have to remember anything.
Yeah. I mean, but the point I'm making is I'm just cool with however people want to say it. You know, people say it different ways all over the planet now to me when I travel. And I never correct them because whatever. I don't give a shit.
You're too nice of a guy.
But I think
But here's the thing, though.
Every
time I hear someone say your name wrong, I go, no. Say it right. Learn it.
It doesn't matter to me. The thing is...
But you know what, though? It doesn't matter to you, but we have an official recorded version of you saying your name the correct way and me questioning it. So after this, let's all just say Votolato, okay? Votolato.
Rocky Votolato.
I love Rocky Votolato. I love him so much I know how to correctly pronounce his name.
Thank you, Dave, for clearing that up.
You bet. Okay, good. So let's go back a little ways.
All right.
You're in these bands on the east side. You were in Lying on Loot. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, what band were you
in? Before that, was in a band called Runaway Laughing.
Okay.
My good
buddy. Is it the same people?
No, it was some of my other friends from high school. A guy named Justin Deary, who a lot of people know just from around the music scene.
Sure.
He was in a band called Whalebones for a long time. And he and I were best friends like through high school. And we had a tape. We had one cassette tape release. It's called... I think it's just self-titled Runaway Laughing. And Jake Snyder recorded it.
Yep.
And so...
What about prior to that? Were you in a band prior to that?
I don't think so. I think that was my first official band. And then it was Lying on Loot, then Waxwing.
Waxwing. And at the same time as Waxwing, you were also doing solo stuff.
Yeah, and I think during Lying on Loot, I started doing solo stuff and had a few releases.
Okay, and we're getting ahead of it because we're going to go the other way. You came from somewhere, and I want to know where that is.
Okay.
You're not from the Northwest.
That's right.
Okay, where are you from?
From Frost, Texas.
Frost, Texas.
Yeah.
Were all your siblings born there?
Well, we were all born in Dallas, actually, but we moved just outside of Dallas to Frost.
Yeah, it's Texas.
Some of my earliest memories.
It's just Texas. Unless it's Austin, it's all Texas.
Right. It's rural Texas.
Is it rural Texas?
Yeah, super small town.
Okay, so you were saying some of your earliest memories?
Or from Frost. I mean, that's really where I feel like my childhood, you know, the memories that matter, you know, the formative years of my life were there in Frost.
Okay. What kind of a kid were you?
I was kind of tough, like rough and tumble kind of kid. Like
You got in fights?
I got in fights. I had
with family or with other like neighborhood kids?
Both.
Well, I mean, okay, so you got two brothers, younger, and Sonny's older?
Sonny's older. He's 3 years older than me.
I didn't know he was 3 years older than you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got a 3-year older brother, and you have to fight him.
Yeah.
So you become a good fighter.
Yeah.
And he wins.
Most of the time.
Do you ever win?
Here and there. As we got a little bit older.
Lucky shot? Did he teach you well enough that you could beat him?
We got in one major fight that was when we were teenagers. That was like a little bit more serious.
Was it here or in Texas?
It was in Texas. We lived in Houston at the time. We had just moved from Frost. We lived in Houston for 2 years. Okay, just before we moved to Seattle.
How old are you when you move away from Texas?
So I was, let's see, I was 12 when I moved to I was 11 or 12 when I moved out of Frost to Houston. And I was in 9th grade. So how old are you in 9th grade?
I don't know. 13, 14.
Probably like that age, right? So, and then my first year here in Seattle was in 10th grade. So I think I was 13 or 14 when I moved up here.
Okay. 14, I bet. But okay, so we're going to go I'm just trying to get a timeline on this.
Mm-hmm.
So that means Sonny is 16, 17 when you guys move here.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a little older.
All right. He got ripped out of high school right before graduation.
Yeah, and it was my second year of high school.
Okay.
Because I went to, in the high school I started at in 9th grade, it was a 9th through 12th. So there was, freshman through senior.
Yeah.
And so I had my freshman year in Houston, in a new town. I just moved there, didn't know anybody.
Right.
Went from a 1A school, which is the smallest you can have in Texas, to a 5A school, which is like, it was just a huge transition for me.
Sure. And
that year was super tough. And then the very next year, I moved up to Seattle and started again as a sophomore. Just was a total outcast.
All right,
with
and
no
so I was
friends.
just trying to establish the timeline, and then, and that changed quickly.
It did
Okay.
later.
So let's get back to what we really want to talk about, which is the fighting.
Okay.
Tell me about this fight, this big bad fight with your 3-year-old brother.
Only you.
Don't hit the mic.
Only you could get this out of me, Dave.
Oh yeah.
So Sonny and I were, of course, I was totally hung up on this girl. She lived like 3 houses down from us, and her name was Mandy.
Okay.
And I thought she was so beautiful. I mean, I was just totally in love with her. And she's probably going to hear this out there somewhere in Texas.
Dude, seriously, that would be so amazing.
Yeah, but I was completely in love with this girl. And I think I made out with her.
Like 11-year-old? How old are you at this time?
Man, this is the kind of kid I was. Like I had girlfriends from the time I was in kindergarten.
Okay.
Can you
so you're
believe
a
that?
lover and a fighter.
Yes. Had a dynamic childhood.
And Rocky, no one's going to be surprised. You've written songs about cracking people's heads open with baseball bats. There's violence and darkness in your beautiful music.
Oh, thank you, Dave.
Oh, I did mean it as a compliment. I just wasn't sure you'd take it that way. All right,
it's all part of the game.
How old are you in the Epic Mandy situation?
So I was in 9th grade. So I guess I was 12.
No.
12, 13?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
You graduated at 18, so we're not going 12 to 18. It's not 6 years from 9. You're 14.
Was I?
14, 15, 16, 17.
Maybe I just got, see, 14. I told you already.
That's
my
okay.
memory for these kind of details
No,
is
it's
not
good.
that
I'm trying to sort it out, too. I mean, maybe they do things different in Texas. I don't know.
I think, so I was somewhere between the ages of 12 and 15.
That's fine.
And so...
And you were making out with some girl.
Yeah, I made out with Mandy a few times. I thought it was getting serious.
Yeah.
I thought she really liked me, that I had a shot with her. So then I find out that summer that, Sonny had made out with her kind of behind my back.
Oh, this is some movie stuff, man.
Yeah.
This is family. He's making out with your girlfriend behind your back.
Well, she wasn't my girlfriend, though. See, that's the thing.
She was just a girl you guys were hooking up with.
She just was a girl I was trying to hook up with and who I liked a lot. But who kind of was just sort of like, oh yeah, I'll hang out with you here and there, but I'm not.
She knew she liked Votolatos.
Yeah, but not me specifically. Not enough to be my girlfriend, and not make out with my brother.
All right, so how'd you find out about it?
I don't remember. I think it was another one of the girls that lived on the block told me. Girl across the street. Her name was Shelly.
She tells you.
It was either Shelly or Tracy. One of them told me.
I think it's Shelly and Tracy came over, and they were excited to be which one could tell you first. Because that sounds like Shelly and Tracy to me.
It was insane, like the kind of relationships that went on.
Shelly
on the
and
block
Tracy, we're going to tell you.
In Houston, Texas.
Yeah, and they were tired of Mandy. Mandy gussied up, going Votolato to Votolato. And so they decided they were going to come.
So anyway, back to the story.
Yeah. This is the story. Go on.
So I found out, and I was totally pissed. I mean, I was like livid, like really pissed.
Right.
And it was just kind of a tumultuous time. Like our parents had just gotten divorced. We just moved to Houston. We were going through a lot of transition in our life in general. I was drinking heavily at that time in my life, and so I took it really hard. And I attacked my brother. So
he didn't know it was coming?
I think we had some harsh words.
Inside or outside?
It was inside.
In the house?
Yep. So I dove at him and I tackled him at the hips, and we went over the back of my bed. In my bedroom, we went over the back of the bed railing.
Yep.
Hit the ground, and I came up swinging, and I was hitting him. And then
that's Rocky acting out the fight, which is so. I apologize for the sound quality. Kind of. I kind of don't.
So I'm punching him. He, of course, is much bigger than me and stronger than me at the time.
So you just had the element of surprise.
Yeah. So I had the element of severe anger and surprise, and I was at that point in my life, I was fearless. I mean, I would just attack anybody and try to kill them. You know, that's kind of the kind of kid I was. And so I had him down on the ground. He's stronger than me, so he flips me over, comes down with just a crushing fist right to the face, hit me square in the nose. I remember just seeing stars, and then that was the end of the fight. You know, I was pretty much out.
Okay, so he just one hit, boom, ends it.
He punched me square in the nose, and I was out. But okay. I remember getting up and running out of the house, and running off into the fields for several hours before I was composed enough to come back to the house. But there was a lot of fights like that at the time. I remember my mom throwing us out of the house, and
for fighting,
guns were held, and it was intense.
Well, now you really upped the ante with guns were held. That doesn't say who's holding the guns.
Different people at different times. This was Texas.
And you had
Dave.
guns in the house.
Oh, yeah.
Post your parents splitting up?
Yeah.
So your mom had guns too, or you guys just had your own guns?
We all had our own guns.
So at 14, you owned firearms.
Yes. I had a .357 Magnum.
Oh, a pistol, not even like a shotgun or a 22 rifle like other young... Because this is Texas.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had handguns from a young age.
Did they just stay in Texas? When you moved, did you bring them to Washington?
I'm not at liberty to say.
Wait, do you still own these guns? Is there like a safe with
Dave,
these
we can't talk about this.
Please. Oh, crossing state lines. You're right. There probably is some sort of law.
It's probably illegal. I don't think the guns were ever registered anyway.
Okay, well, this is interesting.
Look, my dad was an outlaw.
Your
there were guns all over the house.
And you grew up with guns. I grew up in a household with a lot of guns too. Not outlaw guns. I mean, hunting.
Sure,
was very much. I grew up in a rural place, and
we had hunting guns as well.
And so I was trained in gun safety. I was shooting guns at like 5, 6 years old.
Cool.
And I'm assuming same for you.
Yeah, it was the same experience.
And so there was never any curiosity or confusion in my mind about a gun and what its power or what the possibilities were. So there was, and I feel like, well, if you were pointing guns at your siblings, definitely the message did not get to you. But
we were a little crazy, at that time.
But I mean, that's the thing. It's different than coming across a gun and being like, "What's this?" and pointing it and accidentally shooting some neighbor kid.
Right.
We were very gun savvy.
Oh,
it was a different time.
We were trained with
and this was a different time. We're talking about. Well, you're talking about the early 80s?
Yeah, I guess so.
Early 80s in Texas,
early to late 80s. No, this was pretty late 80s.
Oh, okay.
Almost 90s.
I guess that makes sense. But it's Texas, so could be any time.
Different rules apply.
All right, so I did not expect any kind of gun conversation. I find that pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
You're not a
it's
gun...
crazy to remember that.
You're not a gun guy now.
No. I mean, I kind of moved past all that and...
Right.
When I got interested in music, my whole life changed. Everything about me,
Yes.
I refocused my energy on music and becoming a songwriter. And
well, it's going to be it's going to be so much of what we talk about on this podcast is the influence of music and how it redirects your life. Let's get back into what we're talking about.
Yeah, the story with Mandy.
Oh, what did you do to Mandy? Like what?
Oh, I just didn't really talk to her much after that.
You didn't confront her?
I felt betrayed.
You didn't say...
No, I've never talked to her to this day. It still haunts me.
Really? That's such a lie. You don't care about Mandy.
Kidding. No,
I know, but it's pretty awesome that you said that.
But my teenage self really did. That was a big deal.
But I was just working out, like getting on Facebook right now and finding Mandy for you.
I think I heard from Tracy and Shelly that she has, because I've heard from them on Facebook.
Dude, when you started this story, you said there was only one. I'm the one that made it 2 people.
No, this is Tracy and Shelly. They live directly across the street.
Oh, I love this.
This
Okay.
is so fun. I think I did not imagine us talking about the block in Houston that I lived on.
Okay, well,
this is perfect.
This is the kind of thing I want to talk about. Look, all of this makes you who you are. This is where a lot of the creativity came from.
Sure.
A lot of things that you have written about. And just, it's interesting to me. I can read 100 different interviews about the projects that you're working on and the records you're putting out and everything, and that's all cool, but we don't need to talk about that. You are going to get a chance to talk about that. We'll talk about that stuff later on in the podcast.
Yeah, you got a little bit of a deper perspective. We have been friends a long time, right? That's the point of this podcast.
Yeah, we've known
each other too long.
What I like, well, not really. I mean, that's a kind of a joke name.
Totally.
Because I intend to know you for the rest of your life.
Sure. Well, we spend
I'm saying it that way.
every New Year's Eve together.
That's the future, but yes, it's true. We have and we have spent every New Year's Eve together for how many years now?
I don't know. At least
it's a decade,
close to a decade,
and it's really one of the highlights of my year. I tell you,
fun,
it's a good way to end it all right after Christmas, and I'm just burnt out, and all I know that I've got just to hang out with you and your killer family, and
it's awesome, man.
It's good. I feel very lucky about that. But that's the fight with your brother.
Mm-hmm.
Fight with your family. You gave up more information than I expected with the firearms. You fight a lot of other kids, other boys in the neighborhood.
Let's see.
You ever seen Knock Around Guys?
No.
Maybe Knock Around Guys. I think it's what's his name? Triple X. Riddick, that actor. I can't think of his name.
I'm bad with actors'
Come on,
names.
bald dude. This is stupid. I actually know this actor's name, but I do this all the time when I need to remember somebody's name.
I don't know it.
I live for this shit. Come on. He's in the Fast and Furious movies.
I don't watch that.
I've never seen. I was
Vin
really
Diesel.
hoping you would say it. Okay. There's a part in the movie where he says a number. He's like 36.
Uh-huh.
I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, that's how many fights he had to have before it didn't matter anymore or something like that till he considered himself to be like an actual fighter, or
right?
Whatever, someone who.
I found that experience counts when you're fighting.
And I know that I am misquoting this movie horribly, and I've missed the main point of that number and what he said. But were you that kind of kid? Did you fight dozens of times?
It wasn't all the time. It was usually just something silly. It would be with even people that I was friends with. At the time, we would end up in a scuffle or something. I think it was rare. I mean, it happened, but there's probably only 5 or 6 times that I got into fights with kids that where it didn't just resolve and we were still friends afterwards, or something like that. But it was just kind of, like I said, it's rough and tumble kind of kid.
I focus on this stuff.
Rode motorcycles and 4-wheelers, and I was outside a lot, and I played sports.
You were a total out, and you played a lot of sports.
Yeah, I did.
Football.
Played football. I mean, in Texas, you have to play football. It's like a religion,
Right. Were you good at it?
I was good at it, at least when I lived in Frost, because the pool of people is much smaller. And so I kind of had this, it was amazing because when I moved from Frost to Houston, all my dreams around, how good I was at sports were totally shattered because, I thought I was good at football, baseball, basketball. I played every soccer. I mean, I played every sport. And then when I got to Houston and I realized, oh my God, there's all these other kids and they're way bigger and stronger and better at these sports.
They've had more competition.
Exactly.
All this time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then I was like, I'm actually not that good at this, and I have no business playing football. I mean, I'm 5'7" on a good day.
Is that are you 5'7"?
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay. So you say you're 5'7" and that's your optimistic height? No, because I say I'm 5'9", and I'm 5'9" if I'm trying hard.
Yeah.
If I'm stretching.
That's me on 5'7".
Okay, cool.
I'm probably 5'6" and a half.
Like 5'8". All right. What role did music play in your life in Texas?
Well, that's a great question. It was totally different. I mean, I loved music and I listened to it. A lot of the music that I listened to and was influenced by when I was younger came from my dad. Mm-hmm. And he had really good taste in music, listened to a lot of outlaw country, mm-hmm. He's the one who first played me the early Dylan records that were super inspiring to me, and Cat Stevens and, Chris Christopherson and the guys that I really ended up super looking up to as songwriters later. Music was more, it was just kind of something that was my parents. You know, it was more in the background. Like I didn't partake in it in the same way that I did when I moved up to Seattle. There wasn't a scene. You know, I wasn't going to shows, and I think the first show that I saw was like Def Leppard, or that was like one of the only
First
shows.
concert.
Yeah, like I went to see Def Leppard in Dallas in like '82 or something.
That's pretty awesome.
It
Because
was
that's
great.
a good Def Leppard era.
Yeah. What
so
year
you're-
was Hysteria?
No,
What year was that?
85 or beyond.
Was it?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so is that
you
Pour Some
went-
Sugar on Me?
If you went and saw Def Leppard 1982, you're talking High and Dry or Pyromania.
No, it was Hysteria.
Okay. I
So
was
it was-
jealous for a minute. Now I don't care. They might have they might have played some old songs, but you were watching it with people
Yeah,
That was
Pour Some
bummer.
Sugar on Me.
Yeah.
I remember singing that in the car on the way
Pyromania
home.
is a killer album.
It is.
And I know there are people out there who are like, no, man, High and Dry is a good one. You know what I mean? And there's probably fans of On Through the Night who would get mad. But I don't think there's a lot of people that would really like,
Go to the mat for Hysteria.
no. I don't think, I could be totally wrong, and I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about Def Leppard. But that had to have had it. So that was your first live event, though.
It was. You know, the other band that I saw, though, it's so perfect because it was in Texas. It was around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
My dad took me. It was Striper.
Oh, God.
Do you remember the band Striper?
Striper in Texas, Yellow and Black
Christian
Attack.
rock band?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Hated them.
They threw out white Bibles at the show.
Now, by that you mean Bibles for white people.
No. I mean white colored Bible.
Oh, okay. I don't know. It's Texas. It's Striper. It could be anything.
It wasn't like
I was
that.
trying to goad you into something.
Yeah, please don't.
All right. I don't know. For all I knew, you were going to be like, "Oh yeah, we knew a lot of Klansmen."
Oh
You were
God,
gonna-
I hope not.
All right. So, was it in Texas where you first heard punk rock music?
No.
So you have to get out of Texas before you have that kind of outcast music. Well, it's weird
Yeah,
though,
yeah.
because though you were listening to people who were still edgy. Your dad was playing like Dylan for you.
Yeah, but he was much more into like, you know, Leonard Skinner and outlaw country and those types of musical, you know, experiences is what he enjoyed. He didn't like punk rock as much, or, I mean, you know, that stuff for me, I wasn't exposed to it until I moved up to Seattle.
Okay, let's do that then. Tell me about moving to Seattle and that experience. You don't have to go into it a lot if you don't want to, but anything that you think of that kind of matters. And who do you meet when you come to Seattle that puts you in this direction that gets us in the same place?
Sure. Okay, so my parents got divorced just before we moved out of Frost. And that was, well, the event that precipitated that was a tornado hitting my house. So we lived on a horse ranch out in Frost. There was 15 horses, and we had a trailer house that we lived in that had been built onto, you know, like my dad had paid some guys to come and like modify the house and add some rooms to it. But basically it was just a glorified trailer house on a plot of land in Texas. And so a tornado came through. I was at baseball practice at the time, and we pulled over, like my mom had picked me up and all the other kids were in the car, and we pulled over to the side of the road because there was a huge storm, and we waited there while the storm passed. When we got home, we saw that a tornado had hit the house and completely destroyed it. So that event kind of precipitated, you know, my parents getting divorced, which that was coming for a long time, but it finally kind of kicked things into high gear. And my mom moved to Houston, and she met my stepdad, who owned a Longhorn Ranch down in Texas, and he was like an investor in the Longhorn Ranch. And so
You're talking
about Spiro, my current stepfather.
Since I don't know the whole history, I wasn't just going to assume. Yeah, Spiro's killer.
He's awesome. Yeah, it's a good guy. So he came in, and the hero that he is, you know, he took on. He fell in love with my mother, and they got married, and he took on 4 very unruly Texas teenagers who just gone through a divorce and didn't want to move to Seattle at all, you know. So that was amazing because he really just, you know, was there for my family, and I've always had so much respect for him and looked up to him as an example, you know, of what a father can be for a family. And so anyway, he worked at Boeing up in Seattle. He's an aerospace engineer. And luckily, you know, he met my mom through the Longhorn business. And then she was doing some accounting for him at the time. They hit it off. They got married. And then we took the road trip up from Houston to Seattle. And that was in like 91 or 92.
Okay.
So then, you know, I end up in Seattle. You probably know even better than I do what the Seattle music scene's like at that time. I mean, it's really a lot going on. And
91 is Nevermind.
Right. Yeah, like that's when the whole grunge thing was happening. And we were super into that. I mean, we were already, when we were in Houston, we got exposed to, like, my older brother Sonny was listening to all those, you know, the typical grunge bands, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, all that stuff. So
Ben, was he clued into like Sub Pop, like the stuff that was lesser known but was still
a little bit, but we were just starting to, you know, just get to the tip of the iceberg with that stuff. We didn't really, I mean, in Texas, it just wasn't really well known. You know, there was no avenue into understanding what was happening more in the underground. So we got up to Seattle, and then, you know, I wanted to play guitar. Like, my mom had bought me a guitar in Houston from a pawn shop there. My first guitar was like $200 crapper, you know, that ended
acoustic
guitar that I learned to play on. And then when I got up to Seattle, it was kind of the perfect environment for me to really dive into, you know, working on how to play guitar and how to write songs, because I didn't have any friends, and I had a really thick Texas accent, you know, talk like that. So
you have never had that accent in the time that I know you. So how long did it take you to lose your accent?
I lost it pretty fast.
Did you work actively at losing it?
Oh, yeah. I tried to lose it because people were making fun of me at high school.
Yeah. Well,
or in high school. You know, people made fun of me for just being different and having the accent. And
I don't know. It's kind of a cool accent if you're the only one in school that's got it.
Yeah, I guess I just
Come on, there were some people who thought it was cool, right?
I guess, but none of them were girls, and they weren't talking to me.
Okay. I would have thought there were some girls that would have thought it would be cool.
No, I felt like it was really, I just wanted to fit in. You know, there was enough going on in my life that I was pretty unstable at the time. I was drinking heavily, had a lot of mental problems.
You were drinking heavily in 1991, which makes you how old?
Was I 14?
You were drinking heavily at 14.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was drinking heavily by the time I was 12.
How were you getting it?
Well, when I was in Texas, my dad gave me as much as I wanted to drink.
Okay.
And he actively encouraged drinking and wanted me to drop out of high school and join the gang. So that's kind of the environment.
I know you've covered this recently in another podcast.
Yeah.
But he wanted you to join the gang. He wanted his son in the. Is it like Sons of Anarchy kind of thing? Was it a bike gang?
Absolutely. Yeah. It was the Dallas Scorpions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You're naming names.
Yeah, it was a real motorcycle gang, you know, not in a glamorous way.
So it's not that you think he wanted this, it's that he told you this is what he wanted.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He was actively trying to convince me to stay with him.
Hey, 13-year-old son, because you're 13, I mean, this must have, or was this right before you left when he brought this up?
Yeah, I mean, after the tornado hit the house, we found out he had another family, and that he was hiding in Dallas, you know, where he had 3 other kids and another wife. And
you have 3 other biological
half brothers.
Oh my God.
Well, 1 half sister and 2 other half brothers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do any of them play music?
Not that I know of. Not yet.
So it's from your mother's side.
I think so. Yeah. Actually, well, interestingly enough, my uncle David on my mom's side is the one who kind of started the whole music thing for us. He gave electric guitar to my older brother Sonny, and then, you know, he learned to play guitar, and I wanted to be cool like him. Cody followed me, and pretty soon we're all playing guitar.
I think most people would really like the way this story worked out, and that it's not a story of you getting into the bike gang.
Yeah, well,
because you really, I think
glad.
Your music has enriched a lot of people's lives. It's enriched mine.
I hope so. Thank you, Dave.
I mean, our friendship more so, but I mean, I love your music too. It's a real bonus when you know, one of your favorite artists can be one of your good friends. That's a big deal.
Oh man, that's awesome. Thanks for saying so.
And I don't know. I mean, you're hitting me with stuff that I know you've alluded to before, but I haven't heard some of these stories. I mean, you never told me that about your dad wanting to.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of stuff that doesn't come up that often if you're just kind of, you know, shooting the shit with people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you know, unless you're delving into you know, the deep history of my life and
true.
trying to get there. You know, I don't really bring it up that often.
Right,
It's
I guess
kinda,
that's true. It's just we've gone places before with conversation. So
yeah.
that's cool. I like that. I mean, I'm very happy to be finding some of this stuff out.
Cool, man.
Okay. So let's I think there's a lot of interesting stuff there, but I think we need to get you to Seattle and get into that. So you're learning to play guitar because you don't really know anybody.
Mm-hmm.
How long does it take you to play guitar where you feel you're proficient enough to play guitar in a band?
I'd say probably about 1.5 years.
Okay.
Because I was working really hard at it. Like I got to a place where it just became the most important thing in my life. You know, once I knew that I kind of wanted to play music, and I went to a few all ages shows. They were at the Old Firehouse in Redmond.
So your first punk rock all ages show is at the Old Firehouse in Redmond.
Yep.
What show is it?
So the first show, that's a great question. There's a couple that my memory isn't totally clear. I remember the first one that had a huge impact on me. I know I saw Seaweed. I saw 1007.
The Seaweed shows at the Old Firehouse were huge. Was it Undertow?
I saw Undertow.
Seaweed, Undertow, and Peeved.
Yes, I was at that show. That was one of the first shows I went to.
That was a huge show.
Yeah, it was awesome. And then I saw Jawbreaker on the 24-hour Revenge Therapy tour.
Okay, sure.
And that show, by then I'd seen quite a few shows and was, you know, going to the Firehouse a little bit more.
And were you playing music yet?
Yeah, I was already playing guitar because I started playing guitar when I was in Texas. Just
right,
before
but were
I
you
moved
playing
out.
music with other people in a band when you saw Jawbreaker?
I feel like I was just kind of getting things started with Runaway Laughing because I was in high school at the time. And my buddy Justin and I, who were in that band together, were at that show. And I remember so we both looked up and we just saw Blake Schwarzenbach, you know, like jumping around on stage and just totally losing his mind. And and they were playing songs from Bivouac and
is it the Old Firehouse?
Yeah, at the Old Firehouse in Redmond.
And the barrier's up, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this was when they were having the big shows. They had a big stage, a barrier. They actually had security in there.
Totally.
And there's probably, if it was Jawbreaker, I'm going to guess it was around 400 to 450 people to show.
Probably, yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was just intense. Like people were really enjoying the show.
We don't know each other, but I'm definitely at that show too.
Yeah, you were there too?
Oh, yeah.
For sure, right?
I think I saw every Jawbreaker show at the Old Firehouse.
Cool.
When they came through.
You saw the $5 one that they did at the end of?
Yes.
That was such a good show.
In the corner.
Yeah, on the floor.
Yeah. That was really good.
But anyway, that show was the 24-hour Revenge Therapy show was so special to me because I remember specifically that night after I saw that show, I remember saying to myself, that's what I'm going to do with my life. I'm going to play music.
It's Jawbreaker. Jawbreaker lights the fuse.
Yeah, they pushed me over the edge.
But so, the thing is, do you remember the first time you came into the Old Firehouse, what your impression of it was, and what bands were playing? And that might be too much to ask.
Yeah, I don't remember specifically. It's some mixed dreamlike memory of all of these experiences.
Given the timeline you're putting here, it could very well be that Seaweed, Undertow, Peeved show.
I think that was it. Honestly, that's like, because I remember I got a shirt at the first show I went to, and I still have it. It's a Seaweed shirt.
Well, then that's it.
It's the one that says "Visualize Tacoma" on the back. Yeah.
That was great. So that's a very good first show.
Yeah, it was great.
And then shortly after that, you got Jawbreaker. You are in.
I was hooked.
And Runaway Laughing. Did you guys have were you guys like really influenced by like Sunny Day Real Estate?
Probably. Yeah, because I saw Sunny Day at the Firehouse too around that time. And and they influenced me because I think their first 3 or 4 shows. I saw them play when there was like nobody watching.
The first shows with Jeremy singing.
Yes, I didn't. No, I actually saw them with.
When it was just the 3 of them.
Yeah, when it was Thief Steal Me a Peach. Is that what they were called before?
Thief Steal Me a Peach. And I'm probably gonna get this wrong, but I believe Thief Steal Me a Peach was Jeremy, and Sunny Day Real Estate originally, like the first 7-inch, like the first 4-song demo they did, is just Dan singing, Nate playing bass, and William drumming.
Yeah, I had that 7-inch. I got that 7-inch. So I don't know if I bought that at a Sunny Day show or if it was a different show before that.
And then it was shortly after that this other band that I think William and they merged the 2 bands and it became Sunny Day Real Estate.
Was that Brotherhood? Was it the other one that William Goldsmith was in?
No. Nate played guitar with or played bass with Brotherhood.
Okay, that was it.
And he actually talks about
Christ on a Crutch. That's the one.
Christ on a Crutch.
Okay.
Is definitely yes. Christ on a Crutch definitely
was
one of those bands that also I believe Nate played in that also. And then I think Diddley Squat back in the day. God, it'd be awesome to get Nate in here at some point and say, "Hey man, cool. Let's sort this all out."
Should get Jerry Inick in here.
I don't know him very well.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We've been around,
really
each other a bunch.
We've crossed paths so many times on, just through the scene. And
but that's why it would be fascinating to me to find out just how many things we did in, because I am friends with many of his friends.
Mm-hmm.
And when we see each other, it's like, "Hey, how you doing?" So I hope at some point to get definitely William in here. I'd love to get William here, and I'd like to get Jeremy in here too.
I'd love to hear those podcasts.
We'll see. I think I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit.
Okay.
This is podcast number 2.
I'm pulling for you.
Thank you. Okay, so, but I remember thinking that a lot of those bands that came out of the East Side, especially that they were on, there was a compilation, East Infection.
I do remember that.
Mr. Matt Matsuoka named that one.
I was at the meeting, the band meeting that got named at.
Oh man. So Matt Matsuoka not only will be on this show, he may have his own show on this podcast network.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah. He's working on it. His operating title right now is The Token Asian.
Nice.
Token. Okay. So with weed being legal and everything,
right?
That's gonna be so. I just think we're gonna have. I mean, he needs to record in here, and we're not smoking in here, so we'll see what happens.
Michaelanne's not gonna let you smoke that in here.
Oh, I'm not. Yeah. Wait a minute. That's the opposite. Okay. All right. So we're getting totally off track here. Let's come back in. All right. So you start doing Lying on Loot.
Right.
Now, around this time, I've either met you, we've been in the same party or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to tell you how okay, so you've been inspired. I'm going to get back on track here in a second. You've been inspired. Jawbreaker, that's a life changer.
Mm-hmm.
Jawbreaker can do that to people and has done that to many people.
Yeah.
So you start playing Lying on Loot. By the way, Lying on Loot has a full recording, a fantastic full recording. You cannibalized some of the songs for Waxwing. Some of that stuff no one's heard.
Really? I don't even remember it.
Yeah, I know. We had a conversation a little over 10 years ago where I begged you to let me release it, and you said, "No way." But every decade or so, I'm going to get on your case.
Okay.
I would start a record label up again, a new one, to be able to put that out. And the DAT tape's in my safe. Anyway.
Oh, good.
Don't worry.
I didn't even know about that.
I'm holding on for you. You knew about it. Well,
I didn't even remember it.
Well, so here's what happened. You went in to record with Jake Snyder.
Yep.
In the studio that he had in his parents' garage in Woodinville.
In Woodinville.
Yep. And shortly after that, I was out there with Jake, and he was playing State Route 522 recordings for me that I was going to release through the record label.
Through Excursion at the time.
Yes. Remember I did a CD that had 4 bands doing 4 songs each?
Mm-hmm.
It's called Forecast.
Oh, yeah.
State Route 522 has songs on there. And while I'm there, he says, "Hey, listen to this. This is Lying on Loot. Listen to these songs." And he plays Defeatist and Skies of Stars.
Mm-hmm.
Did I say those right?
Yep.
Okay. And those songs are not Lying on Loot. Those songs are you singing and playing acoustic guitar with Seth Warren playing violin.
That's right.
They sound nothing like anything else you guys recorded that day. And they floored me. And I was sitting there with this look on my face, and Jake just looked at me, and then he just kind of nodded and went, "Yeah, huh?" And I was like, "Tell him I want to put this out. I want to put this out." And Jake was like, "Well, I was thinking about saying I wanted to put this out." I'm like, "I really want to put this out."
Wow. I never knew you guys had that conversation.
And what ended up happening is through that conversation, we decided on the Lying on Loot State Route 522 split 7-inch that came out on Excursion.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Which had Toy Cow.
Mm-hmm.
And it had the 2 Lying on Loot songs, which are, your 2 songs. It's not, and that's the only Lying on Loot stuff I think that was released at all.
Yeah, that's all that was released.
Okay, and the other stuff doesn't sound like that. The other stuff sounds like an early shot at Waxwing.
Totally. That's more what the band was all about. We were trying to do what I eventually, I think, was able to achieve better with Waxwing.
Right, but it's still, like, for someone who loves Waxwing and someone who loves Rocky's stuff, loves your stuff, your solo stuff, That they want to hear that lying on loop.
I'd be interested to hear what it sounds like. I mean, I'm sure it's just kind of like, you know, early formative
You're probably good
songwriter
at
stuff.
cringe, but
Oh yeah, I
other
probably
people
would
are
hate
good.
it.
Dude. But it's not bad. It's really cool.
Cool.
Okay. So that after that, we know each other fairly well. I mean, we're working on this thing, you know,
Right.
and you had started, you were doing Waxwing, but when did you decide to just you with a guitar that you're going to do that you can do it without a band?
Mm-hmm.
When did you decide to do that?
Well, Jake and I, we recorded my first full-length album in '99, and that was in the basement of the Aurora House.
That was early '99. It had to be.
Yeah. It was. Do you remember? Of course, you remember the Aurora Punk House where.
Yes. Crucial.
Yeah, that's where Waxwing recorded all our first. Well, we did our first 7-inch in that basement, and yeah, Jake had a recording setup down there.
You had an ADAT recorder.
Yep, that's right, an ADAT.
You have a box with various tapes and DATs, and you also have a VHS tape that is your first recording. You still possess it.
That's right.
I believe it's under your bed.
You've seen it.
I don't know if it's under your current bed. In another apartment, it's under your bed.
It is. We put it under the bed again.
And what I had to remind you a few years ago about is that...
Should I be scared that you know what's under my bed?
No. I didn't look at this. You told me what not to look at.
Oh my God.
Listen, I just remember stuff, and one day I was at your house and you pulled out a box from under your bed.
That's right.
And you always get surprised when you see how much unreleased material you actually have. But you had the ADAT, you had the basically a VHS cassette with your original recording. You recorded 24 songs and released 12.
Is that right?
12 unreleased songs from your very first recording session on that ADAT.
No way. A whole other album worth of
I remember
material.
you guys saying when you were recording that you did that many.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I didn't remember that at all. So
I wonder if anyone still has that equipment. It could I mean, you got to find out what's on there.
Totally. I mean, it's going to be really hard to find equipment that can even access what's on that.
But you got to get it digitized before that thing is gone.
Before it disintegrates.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, okay. We'll have to make that a project for 2015.
I hope people that really love your music are just losing their minds right now, knowing that all of this Rocky Votolato stuff is out there and that people have access to it, and that no one has just had the time to do anything.
Well, it's a good thing you're reminding me that it even exists, because I wouldn't remember or probably ever go check. So that's crazy. So I got a question for you though.
Oh yeah.
Dave. When did we start talking about the movie, and when did you ask me to be a part of that? Okay. So how is this a fast forward a few years from when we met at the party?
Because you've already talked about something, recording in 1999, which I think, and that's why I said it had to be early 99 but that sounds about right for the solo stuff.
Yeah, and I knew I was going to do the solo thing even before that. Right. Through Lying on Loot, through Runaway Laughing, like as I was having these bands and through all the years with Waxwing, I always had kind of more acoustic based folk songs or whatever they were coming out that just didn't fit with the bands that I was trying to, do something louder with.
And the Firehouse had almost like what were like open mic nights and stuff. Did you end up doing stuff at that? Was that kind of how you got experience?
Definitely.
Doing it by yourself?
Yeah. And I played a few like opening slots at shows that were more like kind of singer-songwriter based or acoustic based. And that kind of got me started with the Rocky Votolato solo project.
Right. Okay. So the movie that we're talking about is The Edge of Quarrel. It is a punk rock versus straight edge gang fight movie that takes place in Seattle that I wrote based partially on real experiences that I had or had witnessed at various times with people having problems with punks or factions of the punk scene fighting each other, and also based on the movie The Wanderers.
Oh yeah,
which most people wouldn't necessarily know. It's this very cool New York gang film where there's a big, instead of a rumble at the end of the movie, the fathers of the black gang and the white gang that want to fight each other stop the fight and tell the kids, you're not going to fight. You're going to play a football game against each other, and we're going to bet on it. So the whole neighborhood comes out to watch the black kids play the white kids. And during the game, another gang called the Ducky Boys, who are just these weird, evil kids that don't talk and they kill people, attack the football field And the black kids and the white kids and their fathers and all the people from the neighborhood band together and fight the Ducky Boys and win.
Wow. So that was the inspiration for Edge of
Well,
Quarrel.
I don't know what happens at the Edge of Quarrel. Something about the two sides getting together and having to fight some rednecks that just show up at the at the big rumble. It's similar. It's inspired by.
Okay.
But so I wrote the Edge of Quarrel in spring and summer of 1997.
Okay.
We filmed for 2 weeks hardcore. Like we filmed in September, in the end of August and beginning of September of 1997 is where we filmed the Rumble and a lot of like the serious like stuff.
That's where we went up to Bellingham. We filmed that in Bellingham, right?
We filmed it in Bellingham, the Rumble scene. It was in Bellingham. After that, it took another 2 years to get that thing finished.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
Because it was
To get just
whenever we could get
everybody.
people together, you know, whenever I had time. And there were just lots of weird things that happened that made it stretch out. But your question was, why did I decide on you?
Yeah, and what made you decide to ask me to be a part of that?
I was thinking about the people that could play these different roles that I had written. And I was trying to think of the tone of the main character. And I have been accused by people of basically the main character kind of being my point of view. And I thought that was unfair because every character in that movie has my point of view. Part of me was the punk rock point of view. Part of me was the straight edge point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me was that middle guy, the main character. So the main part of me was that one that was like, no, we can have these different disagreements, but come on, we're all part of the same thing, which is unfortunately what your character did the whole movie and then lost. So, except one, because you get the girl.
That's right.
But I was considering you, and I was thinking about other people that could play the different parts. And of course, not that anyone knew, like, I don't think anybody knew when I said, will you come be in my movie, what I was going to get you into. Like, I don't think you knew I was going to immerse you in this multi-year thing.
No, I had
You probably
no
thought you were going to
idea.
come over for a weekend and have some fun, and that was it.
I didn't realize it was going to be as involved as it was. Or that I would end up meeting my wife through the movie.
Well, I'm glad that you got something out of it. And you didn't just suffer all these years.
Totally.
Okay. And Michaelanne said, Rocky would be perfect. You should ask Rocky.
Oh,
she was the key.
She did. Okay.
I,
So
I would
she
say that
suggested
even though
Thank
I
you, Michaelanne.
knew you were the right person for it,
Uh-huh.
like it doesn't really click. It doesn't really happen until, and I don't remember asking you. I don't remember how I approached you about it.
Yeah,
The only
it's
person
so strange to think of a world where I don't know April and or Michaelanne, you know, and that you are thinking about asking me to be a part of that.
Yeah. You were dating
Michelle probably at the time.
Yeah. And that's who it was. So we get everybody together.
This is like too personal.
The only, yeah, well, it's a pot, you know, come on. We're
This is
coming
an
up,
inside viewpoint.
we're like coming into an hour here.
Wow.
We might be more, we might be less. I'm not 100% sure, but,
feels like we just started.
I know that's the thing. This could go, and it's going to keep going until we get there. Until we get there, man.
So that's kind of like the movie. It's just, I don't know what I'm getting into, and then it just keeps going.
Yeah, the movie's too. I think this is how I just do stuff, and I thought I'd outgrow it, and you know, I think I'll outgrow it when I die, and then I'll just be dead for a long time. People are like, God, he's been doing this for too long. Okay. So the only person I remember asking to be in the movie is Dan Gallucci.
Okay.
That was like a thing. I sat down with him at the Mexican restaurant next to the Cha Cha.
Bimbos?
Bimbos.
Yeah,
God,
Bimbos.
wow. That's still around. I should know this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. And we talked about it, and he said yes, that was the get that I needed. I really needed Dan to do that part because I just, in my mind, it was him.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, congratulations, Dan. He's gone on to do amazing things with his life, huh?
Dan's phenomenal.
What's he in now? Is he playing in the Cold War Kids?
Cold War. I saw him on TV a couple months ago.
Really?
On one of the late night shows. Yeah.
So he was in Murder City Devils at the time, right? And then he went on to do Modest Mouse for years.
Yep.
And he was with them like through, I think, their best period. He
clearly
helped write the Float On song. I think that was their biggest hit. And then now he's in Cold War Kids. Yeah.
And he's done a bunch of other stuff.
So anything he touches basically turns to gold. Just like your movie.
If any of you have seen it, you know why we're laughing. Look, I don't know why I decided to do that. I just decided to write a movie and get a bunch of people in it. And I thought it would be fast. I thought it would go quickly.
Right.
I filmed it on Hi8 Video, and it took forever. And there were tons of delays and problems. After we filmed the first 2 weeks, we had all that under our belt, Aaron Edge grew a beard. Aaron Edge is one of the main characters in the movie. He's Rollo. He's incredibly important in the movie, and he grew a beard and wouldn't shave it.
Is that right?
Yeah. He's going to be on here. We'll talk about it. But one of the reasons why there was such a long delay is because I had to stop. I had to rewrite the script, writing his character completely out, because he had scenes in between scenes he'd already filmed that were crucial. And so I just had to remove the character of Rollo.
Because he wouldn't shave his fucking beard.
What's
he say about it now?
I really want to. I don't know. Come on. When he's on this podcast, we are going to talk about it extensively. But I'll give you the short version.
Okay.
He was in HIMSA, and they agreed that they were all going to have beards.
Okay. That makes sense.
And then they shaved their beards. And I see him one day, and he's got no beard. And I've already rewritten the script.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, what? He's like, oh, yeah, no, I'm done with that. I don't have a beard. I'm like, we can finish the movie. You can be in the movie again. He was like, okay. Like,
I'm looking at the HIMSA record right there.
You're looking at the picture disc. Yes. So, yeah, that was just a thing. So the whole gist of this, is that I finished the movie finally. It took me, after we were done filming everything, it took me months and months and months of working in the middle of the night editing. It wasn't like it is today. It had all been shot on hi-8 tapes. And then a lot of the audio didn't work, so I had to get people. Did you ever have to come over to my apartment and look at the TV and redo your lines into a microphone?
No, I never had to do that. I guess the audio worked when we got
lucky. Well, you were a pro. There was so much. For some reason, I had to get so many people to do that, and to make the audio a little bit better. And if you've seen the movie, you know it doesn't make much difference. And so I edited in the middle of the night. I had to transfer everything from these hi-8 tapes to a big like Betamax tape. And then that was able to have time code so that it could then be edited with digitally edited with Chris Hanzik from Hanzik Audio had a digital editing setup. And so what he told me was this: I will let you edit the movie in my studio from 10 p.m. until 6 a.m. I'll give you the key. I'll give you the code. You'll pay me this much when it's all said and done, depending on how much work it's taken. So it took me months, because also bands, if they booked a lockout or they had their equipment set up, I couldn't go in the after hours for that, because they could end whenever they wanted and start whatever they wanted, and they didn't want their equipment touched. And I would have to walk through where they were recording. So I would also get locked out of the studio for like 3 weeks or a month.
Crazy. Oh yeah,
so
I never knew the backstory of why it took so long.
And so I learned all this stuff, and then shortly after that, I mean, within a couple years, you had desktop video editing capabilities. I could have all done it at home, but it just wasn't there yet. So
you were so ahead of your time, Dave.
Well, whatever. Hey, Matt's first movie, he actually had to edit. So Matt Matsuoka made a movie called Heartbreak Beat.
That's right.
And he made that shortly before I made Edge of Quarrel, and it inspired me. I saw that he could do it with the equipment that he had and with a lot of the same actors, and they were all having fun with it. So, and I had a blast helping him with it, so I wanted to make mine. He did not even have that. He had to use the actual old school reel-to-reel, like tape style.
Wow.
I've never done it, like not splicing editing, but like, 2 tape decks.
It's a different world, man. I mean, I just
flying a race head
actually
or something.
to like jump into the present, which is that allowed on this podcast?
Sure, go ahead.
But I just recorded an album on 2-inch tape. Like the new album I just recorded.
And you haven't recorded on tape for a while.
Oh man, it was crazy. Like it's been a decade since I've recorded on tape.
Well, I just heard this record, and it's phenomenal. And if that's the difference, and everyone needs to go back to doing it that way.
It is. It does make it sound better. But it's totally different, though. I mean, it's really, you can't, in terms of editing and all that, like it's very limited. Yeah. Like you just have to, it requires a high level of commitment. You have to just say, all right, that's the take.
Yep.
We're going with that take.
And there's something to be said for that.
Yeah. It makes you more, I don't know. You're just more committed to what you're doing, and and you have to show up, and you have to get the performance
right. And so, the case of something like my movie, you can't keep polishing that turd; it's never going to get any better. So, no, I'm saying this, but there's things in that movie that I'm proud of, and there are things that you do very well in that movie that I really, really like.
Thanks,
overall, it is what it is, man. I mean, it was just
it was an experiment.
It was us having fun, and then kind of once you got to a point, you just had to keep going with it.
Totally. I'm glad we finished it. I mean, it's kind of one of these cult classic things people recognize me for when I'm walking down the street in Spain.
And okay, I was going to ask you about that, but here's the thing: you have never been straight edge.
No, I never have been straight edge.
And at the time, I asked you to play a straight edge character in a straight edge movie, and in a movie with straight edge people, and I am straight edge and was straight edge. And And so
I'm more straight edge now than I've ever been, actually.
sure, but that's I have an issue with that kind of language. We'll get to it.
What if you're not now? You never were.
No, it's just you're nobody is kind of straight edge. Nobody is basic. I'm basically that's what your aunt says. I saw someone say that on the internet. That's when mom says, "Well, your sisters are straight edge too." They don't. No, straight edge is a philosophy that you take on and you claim that ideal, and then you're locked into it forever.
Okay, and that way I was never straight edge.
Right. No, in all ways you were never straight edge. You played one on TV, which is great. But I remember your one objection to being in the movie was that I was going to have you play a straight edge character and you weren't straight edge. And I think I told you it's acting. And I probably said to you, they don't really kill people in horror films. And if I didn't, that's what I would probably say today.
That's what you should have said.
It sounds familiar. I remember just thinking it's a totally okay, man. It's imaginary. We're not making a documentary. So no, that was a blast. And through the course of that, you met your wife.
Yep, that's right.
And then you had a child before I was able to finish the movie, and so I dedicated the movie to him.
That's right.
Keenan.
Yep, he's in the credits.
Keenan's in the other room right now. He's 15 years old.
Oh yeah, and he's like almost 6 foot tall.
He's one of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life. He is phenomenal. And so there's a part in the credits that says dedicated to Keenan Spiro Votolato, who took longer to make and came out better.
Who was made in less time.
Oh, was that what it was?
Yeah, it was made in less time and came out better.
Did I say it took longer to make?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I got my own thing. You remember what I
remember what it said. So say it one more time, you can edit that out.
I kind of like you correcting me. I think that's more fun and we laugh a little more. Screw that. I don't need to edit this stuff out. All right. So you told me that you were working on, that you just finished a new record.
That's right. Yeah. Just finished it.
And who did you record with?
Recorded with Chris Walla at the Hall of Justice down in Fremont.
And that's where you did Suicide Medicine.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was the last record I actually did on tape.
That was the last Hello?
Oh shit, you guys are still recording?
Yeah, we're still. What's going on?
Hi.
Hi, Michaelanne.
Hi, Rocky.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good.
Okay, so
having fun.
Well, let me explain what happened here. Michaelanne, who we've referenced a couple times, has barged in while we were recording, which is okay. I'll forgive her. It's her house. She's pretty much in charge around here. And so now she's in the room. She knows Rocky pretty well. So if she's gonna show up like this, then I guess we're gonna get her on tape. Let's hear it.
I know Rocky pretty well. Yeah, I've seen him naked.
Wait, what?
A lot of people have.
Yeah, no,
I
could act surprised, but I have too. In various bathrooms of various parties.
Have you seen him actually running down a hall nude from the vantage point of your bed, which he is running towards?
I was in that bed, but I was asleep.
Onto you? No, because you were sleeping, so you did not see it.
No, that's another. And let me guess, that was on some January 1st.
Yes, it was.
And we don't drink.
We always spend New Year's together.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
And Rocky, that was sober Rocky.
No, I was a very drunk Rocky.
That was very drunk Rocky?
Yes.
So does sober Rocky keep his clothes on?
This is in the days when I was,
I don't think we've seen your clothes off since you don't drink.
Yeah, that's something that sort of happens as you sober up.
It's kind of maybe the only downside of it.
Well, Michaelanne, if you're gonna be here, do you have anything you want to ask? I've been talking to Rocky about his whole life, and what would you like to talk to Rocky about?
We talked a lot about the movie. Talked about the party when I was wearing a silver shirt.
No, Michaelanne was not there.
I was not there.
You weren't there
because I came dressed as Lloyd Dobler to meet you.
Yes, everybody told me afterwards, but I wasn't there for another reason.
Such a great story.
You didn't even know me until
I knew who you were.
Oh God, you were elusive.
Yeah.
Did you know who I was at that time?
Yeah, because of the Redmond Firehouse, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's right.
Because I knew the only reason you even got mentioned as being an actor in the movie was because of.
That's what we just talked about.
Was because of me, because I said, "Hey, Rocky should be the one," because we were already hanging out, and plus April already knew your brother, because Cody Votolato was this little boy that followed April around because they worked together.
That's right. He worked at Taco Del Mar.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, now, so did they work together prior to when they met on the film?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Cody and April worked together. Yeah, and because Cody, he was like, I think he even told her.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're gonna love my brother when you meet him.
Totally. Yeah. I know it. And he secretly had a crush on her though.
Of course.
Oh,
Everybody
yeah,
did.
everybody did.
That was Sherilyn Fenn.
That's right. She still does. Yeah, so I think it's longer than you've known Rocky.
Well, thanks for recommending me for the movie.
Well, yeah.
That's true. You have known Rocky longer than
It was probably the
I
best
got
thing
my
that
wife
ever
out of it.
happened. At least for you. Plus the story of how you met her or actually started spending time with her is one of the best in the world.
We didn't go over any of that, and
Yeah,
you
we
probably
should
have a
talk
better
about it.
perspective. We had an apartment. Michaelanne and I had an apartment on Capitol Hill. This woman, Michaelanne, we've been together for almost
I'm
20
a
years.
woman now.
It's 20.
I hope so.
Well, I've already given away my age on this podcast. If anyone
I'm a
listens
lady.
to,
Nobody needs to know my age.
if anyone listens to the prior episode with Greg Bennick, I divulged my age, so they could kind of figure your age, sort of, at least within maybe a few years. So we've been together
No, it's a
for 20
mystery.
for 20 years this month, or no, this year.
No, yeah,
20
this
years
year.
this year, and that's awesome.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. I'm pretty happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, because of that, you've seen most of these stories I'll be telling in this podcast. You have knowledge and sometimes another point of view on.
Mm-hmm.
So if you, since you apparently did not respect our privacy, if you want to,
Oh, ouch.
if you want, I don't have a little light above the door that says recording, so it's okay. If you want to ask Rocky some questions or talk about, go, see if he remembers things the way you remember, I'm totally cool with that. I can always edit it out if it doesn't work. So.
I'd like to hear Michaelanne's perspective on how April and I met
Oh,
and that
Lord.
day. Like, do you remember what happened?
I don't think, I mean, maybe, I don't know. I have the worst memory in the world, so sometimes
We've
I
been
think I
over
make
this.
things
We
up.
think we
Okay.
have bad memories.
Yeah.
So
you
in
got a
my
better memory than
version,
us.
in my version of events, we're going up to Bellingham. I think I don't know why.
Okay, you guys were going to bed. This
So
is so
we were going.
fun.
You'd met her. You'd hung out around April. I mean, you knew who she was already.
April
we
did
weren't strangers.
sound on the Edge of Quarrel.
Yeah.
She was involved
because
in the
that
production.
morning. We were filming at Singles Go
Going
Steady.
Steady.
Yeah.
Singles Going Steady. Yeah,
Yep.
that's right.
Yeah.
And I remember that was the first time I really had a
Was
chance
that-
to talk to her.
We were filming at Singles Going Steady. It was a record store in Seattle. It was the first day of filming.
Yeah. Was that the way?
crazy.
That was all the way. Oh, it was. That's right. Because they really hadn't spent much time together.
No.
And she only really knew you just from seeing you at the Redmond Y.
Yep.
And then from
And then
working
I
with
met-
Cody.
And
I
if
met
you guys
her-
want to know what's going on in the movie, this is the scene when you and John Pettibone are looking at records, and Pettibone is explaining to you that punks won't fight you in the record store because it's sacred ground.
That's right.
And that's the day. The day we filmed that
Okay.
is the day you met your wife.
That's right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Or-
and I had kind of had
Yeah.
had like run-ins with her before,
Yes.
but the day that's the first day that we hung
you
out
hung
and
out.
we went and the
Yeah.
keys were locked out of your apartment.
Okay, now
So
explain
now
this.
that we're jumping ahead. So
Explain
yeah.
this, Michaelanne.
So we all
What
go
do you-
back to the, or I don't know where I was. No,
and
I was
befo-
down there.
And before
You
we
were.
tell it, I just want to say one other thing because I'd seen her at the Rocket from the Crypt show
Yes.
at the Crocodile. And I remember that was the moment that I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, Rocket
I
from
realized,
the Crypt saw her too. So did everybody else in the room.
I remember she was wearing a red dress at the Rocket from the Crypt show. And
Which one though? That's the problem. Since we went to every single one of them. No,
man.
but yeah. So you guys. So I don't know. We all end up back at the house at the apartment, and we're like figuring out who's going where. And you guys were hungry and you wanted to go eat. And Dave and I had to go to Bellingham, where his family lives, but I don't know why. We had to go somewhere.
Yeah, and we
were
thought
far
everybody was
away.
going to come to
And
breakfast.
this is before cell phones.
after the filming.
Birthday celebrations,
Was it
probably,
for
for
something?
my mother
Yeah.
and my father.
Oh yeah, because it was the end of August,
Yep.
so that would make sense. Yes, but that's not really important to the story. That's just a side note.
Okay. So you didn't know why.
I love it.
We've
on
been together 20
recording.
years. Come on.
No. It was like this.
Incredible.
So we leave, and it's before cell phones because we're that old. And so it's before cell phones. We have no way of getting in touch with one another. And you guys leave to go get breakfast or lunch or whatever the hell you're eating. And we leave, and April locks her keys in the apartment.
That's right. Yeah.
So you have to drive her. I mean, literally, we are only gone for 2 minutes, and you guys know that you don't have keys. And that was just fate working its little hands.
And that
true.
stuck you guys together for the whole day.
And you guys were gone
Yeah,
all the way
and
up
I'm-
to Bellingham. So
And we were coming back that night, but I'm pretty sure April didn't maybe
even reach out.
reach out and talk to me.
We were
because
stuck
I didn't
together.
know until the next morning that she didn't have a way back into the apartment because she was kind of living with me with us at the time. Do you
I
remember?
think so, yeah.
Yeah. So
'Cause she didn't want to
She was
be
kind of
in
like
her
in
apartment.
between apartments or something.
Yeah.
So
She
yeah.
had a really really shitty apartment
Oh
at
yeah,
the time.
it was terrible.
It was real shitty.
Yeah, and Autumn
Wait,
was little. Autumn
You're
was
talking about
little.
the one down on 3rd Avenue.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the
3rd
one,
Avenue downtown
the one
Seattle.
above the old record store, where what Time Travelers. We're
Kinda-
almost above
Yeah,
it.
I'm not.
Kind of close to the moor. Was it?
Yeah, right near there. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so it was terrible, and so she was basically living only for a couple weeks with us before her next place opened up, the basement house, I believe.
Ah, that we ended up living together in.
Yes,
That's right. Yeah, because we ended up spending that entire day together.
You do know she's gonna kill us for telling all these stories on here.
But so here's the thing. So without the movie, you guys don't necessarily mean to get together. Without this mistake of the keys, you don't necessarily mean to get together. But without Michaelanne saying, put Rocky in this movie.
Yeah, and without me being best friends with April, it almost
well,
essentially
it comes
since
together
we were 7
in a-
years old. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, it really connected us, impacted my life, and
yeah,
still does.
because we feel like we're members of the Votolato family.
Absolutely, you
All right.
are.
So you started right out of the gate with Naked Rocky. So you
Oh yeah,
definitely-
because that's just totally how I roll.
I'm wondering, is there any other embarrassing things before you leave?
Oh wow, that's really
Be gentle.
nothing that are suitable to tell on a podcast that his 15-year-old son might listen to.
I don't know. There's probably already stuff on this podcast. His 15-year-old son. Well, we talked about his 15-year-old son on here.
It's because he's one of the best people I know.
You know, some of the stuff you guys
Thanks,
say in
Mike.
front of that
He
kid,
really is.
you can't
Yeah, he's
scar
a
that
good
kid.
kid.
You scarred him years ago.
I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not.
Kind of. Kids aren't hard enough these
Hey,
days.
well, yeah. But
how
if you
many-
grow up with punk rock parents in their 20s,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
It's just the kids are just different. They're not. I mean, look at what the stories you said, what you grew up with, and
Oh,
look at his
yeah.
awesome life that he's had. You know, he hasn't done a lot of fighting. I don't think.
It's true. He doesn't have the kind of scars that we grew up with.
Some of that will be good,
Yeah,
and some of that will be bad.
totally.
It'll probably make for better people in the long run.
I hope so.
All right. Okay. I'm
Are you gonna head out?
getting out of here.
Thanks for coming.
Okay,
in.
well, I don't mind. I think that's cool, and I may cut this out. I may leave it in. We'll see. I appreciate that you came in and contributed.
Thanks, Michael.
I
It's
really
very
didn't
nice.
mean to interrupt.
That's okay.
No,
You did it.
I'm glad you did.
We'll see. We may even leave
Good
it
to
in.
see it. Bye.
Love you, babe. All right, so we're coming up on, man, we've been doing this for almost an hour and a half now, so I think it's probably fair to say that I've probably forced you to tell too many embarrassing personal
Revealing
stories.
personal
So
stories.
let's go
there.
ahead
Thanks
and,
a lot.
and that's my goal. So I'm gonna go ahead and give you some time to talk about the stuff you're working on now and
Sure.
what people can expect from you in the future. Go ahead and
Talk about what
some
2015
promo.
looks like.
yeah, 2015. What's going on with you?
It's good. Things are really exciting right now. I just signed to 2 new record labels. No Sleep Records out of Huntington Beach, California. They're going to be putting out my new album in the U.S. This spring, and then a record label called Glitter House in Europe, who's going to put out the same album in April. So we're looking at this coming up. We'll probably be announcing it sometime in the next few weeks with, more details, like the album title and the exact street date and all the rest of it. But I'm super excited about those new partnerships and looking forward to getting this record out. Recorded it with Chris Walla, as I mentioned earlier. Recorded it to tape here at the Hall of Justice in Seattle.
What's it called?
Can't say quite yet.
Are you not allowed to say the title of your record?
Not yet.
Okay.
It depends when this is going to go online.
It may be tomorrow.
Yeah,
It
we
won't
better
be-
wait then.
It won't be tomorrow, but it's gonna go soon-ish.
Yeah.
So,
So,
okay,
so we
that's
haven't
fine.
we haven't announced the title of the album.
It's the
yet.
2015 full length.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, my eighth record, my 8th full length album.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's kind
that
of
include the
incredible
10-inch?
since '99.
Does that include the little 5-song one? No.
No, it doesn't include any 7-inches or EPs or anything that I've done. So there's
Okay.
been 8 full length records plus a slew of 7-inches and smaller EPs or whatever.
And you're going out on the road soon.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be touring a lot this year. Really excited about that. I've got a tour starting next week with Murder by Death.
Okay.
Gonna go down the West Coast with those guys. That ends in Memphis, I think mid-February.
Will you have will it just be you and a guitar, or will you have instrument backup?
Probably just be me and a guitar. You know, I'm thinking about playing electric guitar on this tour. It's going to be a little bit more of a rowdy crowd for the Murdered by Death shows. So I'll probably switch between electric and acoustic, kind of how I've done in the past, opening up, you know, on those kind of shows. But then after that, I'm going to do, and if you go to my website, you can see the details for this now, but I'm currently accepting submissions for people to host me in their living room. For a full U.S. tour.
So you're doing living room shows?
Yeah, I'm going to do a full U.S. tour of living room shows this spring. And please, you know, if anybody hears this,
I know
get in touch.
that's become a more common practice now, but explain it as if a person doesn't know anything about the music scene and doesn't know what that means. How does it work?
So
explain it to my mom.
Okay. All right, Dave's mom. So it's basically an idea that my buddy Dave Bazan, probably know him from the band Pedro the Lion, came up with. But he explained it to me and said this would be perfect for me to try, and so I did. But basically, we put up a list of dates and cities, a potential routing that we want, and that's on my Facebook page, my website right now. And then you can go to a website, a link where there's an email address on there, and you can email us if you want to host a show, if you live in one of these cities or near it and around the date that we're looking for. Please get in touch. You can just send us an email. It'll go to Undertow Management Company, and they will sort through those and get back to you and let you know if you send in a couple photos of your living room. Basically, we're just looking for anybody who wants to host a show and can fit anywhere from like 25 to 50 people in their living room. And then basically you don't have to deal with money or anything. Everything's handled through our ticketing website, and we sell 20 to 50 tickets per show, depending on the size of the living room. And then nobody gets your address. It's totally private, except for the people who actually purchase the tickets. And they then, so you won't have just random people showing up at your house. So it's a very intimate way to experience music. I love it. There's no PA system. There's no stage. You know, it's just me and an acoustic guitar.
And so
very intimate.
People who are able to get, and a lot of times the people who buy these tickets are friends of the people who own the homes. It's like they're having private performances in their home. They let all their friends know. The tickets get bought up.
A lot of times, yeah, and the person who hosts the show gets 5 free tickets.
Right.
So they it's them and 5 of their friends can, you know, basically have a free show, and that's essentially.
And the kind of music
works.
you play really lends itself. I mean, you can see you play in a living room, and it might be more impactful. It might be a better overall experience than seeing you on a stage with a lot of people. Both of them have their own benefits.
Right. There's pros and cons.
Although I'd say, well, I don't know about cons. Honestly, I don't. What's the drawback of seeing you live versus the drawback of seeing you in an intimate setting?
You're right.
I don't look at it that way at all, because I've seen you do these small shows, and I've seen you play at weddings, and I've seen you play at all kinds of things, and it lends itself very well to multiple types of venue. But this living room show thing is brilliant. I know you've done a lot of it.
Yeah, it's been really a fun thing to do.
So if anyone has this opportunity, it's 39 dates, right?
39 dates across the
Get
United
one of these
States.
tickets, go to somebody's house, hang out for an intimate night, seeing Rocky do his thing. Yeah. Buy a T-shirt and a record.
Thanks, Dave.
Because you're selling merch just like a band, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I really, really appreciate the support that I've gotten from my fans as I've done these kind of shows, and just over all the years that I've been doing this. I mean, I just have such an incredible fan base. I'm so grateful to the people that, you know, keep me doing what I do, and I'm super excited. I'm looking forward to the year. Got a whole bunch of new songs I'll be playing, and just, you know, I'll be heading to Europe after that, and then back in the U.S. probably for a club tour. So just, you know, keep an eye out.
Excellent. Now I'm going to tell a quick story about you.
Okay, go ahead.
I may have told you this one before. I don't know if I've ever told you this story. In 2003, I went out with Champion.
Okay.
Just to kind of as a roadie, you know, it was
great band.
Adam Pacey and I. That's awesome. We didn't talk at all about hardcore, really. I mean, Waxwing's kind of a punk hardcore band, but you definitely, I mean, I remember when I brought you to Have Heart out in West Seattle, those guys were like, what?
It's a great show.
They're a great band, but Champion, also a great band. Great dudes. So I'm out with Champion. We drive all the way across the country. We drive to Minneapolis. It's the first place we stop.
Wow.
And we were staying at somebody's house, and I'm so sorry if you are listening to this podcast. I do not remember whose house we stayed at, but they were awesome people. And We needed to, like, merch had been shipped out there.
Okay.
UPS, FedEx, whatever it was. And we needed supplies. I needed to go to a office supply store, and I needed rubber bands for the t-shirts. So she says, girl whose house it was, says, my friend's coming over. She's going to take take somebody to the store to get stuff you need.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, Larson, go, no problem. Don't know this person. She's going to drive me to the store. We get in her car. She turns on her car. The music that she's been listening to comes on. It's you.
Awesome.
And this is 12 years ago.
Wow. Small world.
Right. So it was, I mean, it wasn't completely strange, but it was still, I mean, I had this, oh my God, this is, and so my reaction was, oh, you listen to Rocky Votolato? And she's like, I love Rocky Votolato. And I wish I could have just been cool and been like, oh yeah, he's all right. But of course I had to be like, oh, I know Rocky.
Such
so
a name
it was
dropper.
just, yeah, I know. Jesus. But that was I remember the time thinking, God, this is so good. He's making it. Like, he is definitely, like, everybody needs to listen to Rocky. Well, I still feel that way. It was somebody's wedding. You played at somebody's wedding.
Maybe it was it Mike Turpin's wedding or Nate Turpin's wedding?
Yeah.
That was one of the first
and
places where I remember meeting a lot of people from the scene.
I remember seeing the reactions of the older people at the wedding to you playing. And it was so positive. And I remember thinking, oh my God, like, Rocky appeals. He's one of the only people who musically appeals across these age groups. Like, he's perfectly, I mean, I've seen this guy screaming and yelling. I've seen him playing in some kind of a, I don't want to say
alien outfit.
Yeah, some kind of a flashy silver suit. And just watching people's reactions to you.
Oh, thanks,
I knew
Dave.
that this is what you
man.
needed to be doing.
Dude, I feel that way more than ever now. And that's the greatest thing about, like, just this past year and what I've been through and, like, getting back at it with this new album. And I just feel like, yeah, this is absolutely what I'm supposed to do with my life. For better or for worse. No matter where I land, I'm going to be making songs and playing shows for people.
Well, I hope it works out for you, because it's working out well for the rest of us.
Thanks, Dave.
I love you, buddy.
Love you too. Thanks for having me.
You bet, man. All right, episode 2 in the can. As I said I would, I am going to do some correcting the record here about things we talked about as I was going through and editing and getting all the weird noises out of this episode. We talked about that party at the beginning when Rocky was playing in the silver shirt. I mentioned that I thought Todd Graham had left the band. I'm not 100% sure that Todd Graham had left the band at that point. I think he might have just been out of town. And I also then get a little bit confused and say that I'm not sure Todd Graham was in State Route 522, which is just stupid. Todd Graham was in State Route 522, and I released a record where he's on the credits as being in the band. So it was just me getting a little bit caught up in the, doubting my own memory of events. So sorry, Todd, if you're listening, and sorry everybody else for just not being correct about every single thing. But like we keep saying, this is going to happen. So there's probably more, Get in touch if this podcast is up in a place where we've listed a way to get in touch. Definitely contact us via email or whatever else is there, comment section, and let us know if you think something isn't quite right, because I'm interested in having it all close to accurate. Then we went on. We started talking about fighting. Rocky's a kid in Texas, and I mentioned that movie Knockaround Guys and Vin Diesel. I said 36 fights. It's not 36 fights. The quote is 500 fights. His quote is 500 street fights, and you can consider yourself a legitimate tough guy. So I kind of remembered the gist of it, but certainly not the number. 36, I guess, won't do it. That whole clip is on YouTube. It's actually kind of a fun scene to watch, especially if you like lots of violence. A little bit later, I say, big bad fight with your 3-year-old brother. I'm talking about the fight with Rocky and Sonny. And that was just me getting mushed mouth and tongue-tied. It's supposed to be 3 years older brother. And I've been listening to this. I've been catching all kinds of places where I left off, when I left off S's and other things. So, yeah. That's, once again, just, if you think I've made some mistake with a word, I probably have. And if you can figure out what I really mean, cool. Other than that, we talked a little bit about Def Leppard and the dates of the different records. And this is really pointless, but we'll do it anyway because we've got to be specific about this stuff. Def Leppard, High and Dry was 1981. Pyromania was 1983. And Hysteria came out in 1987. I said it was 85 or beyond. So it was technically correct, but 87. Other than that, that's it for the stuff that jumped right out at me. And, I'm moving on. I've got many more interviews lined up with a lot of other people from various walks of life that I have known over the last, 4 decades. So I hope you tune in to the continuing podcast, and thank you very much for listening.
This podcast is a product of the Nobody's Knows Podcast Network. Executive producers David R. Larson and K. Drake Streetman. Music for this episode provided by Polymorph from the record Artifacts, Demos, and Debris.